Haere mai, this is another Dwarf Fortress tutorial, this time about the military. We will start with a very basic overview of how to get your military started, and then in the second half discuss some more complex concepts, specifically metal types, weapon and armor types, the effect quality has on the effectiveness of your arms and armor, and scheduling your military. To get started with your military, first off you need to assign a military commander, who is Nobles tab, here, Militia Commander. You want to assign somebody with a tactics skill. I don't have any with that skill, so I'm just going to assign Mimale. After assigning the militia commander, you go down into the squad sidebar down here, which the key is Q by default, and click Create New Squad. Click on Metal Armor, and it will assign you a new squad. Click on this little dwarf icon of a face, then start assigning positions. Avoid assigning dwarves whose job gives them equipment. Miners, hunters, and carpenters. Instead, assign people like this brewer, the herbalist, the manager, peasants. Farmers are a good option. You don't have to fill out your squad list, but it's not a bad idea to do so. Once you've finished setting up your squad and filling out its slots, you will need to set them a barracks to train in. Barracks can be placed by assigning a zone. Z barracks place. Then clicking on the barracks and clicking on choose which squads will use this barracks. Clicking the axe icon. Once they've got a place to train and once they've got people in the squad, you can issue them orders by clicking this blank box so it is checked, and then using either the sword icon to assign them a creature to kill directly, or by using this arrow icon to direct them to hold a position. Both of these will work, they are perfectly fine. And that is the raw basics of how to set up your military. Now that we're done with the basics and are beginning to move over to the more advanced section, do me a favor and drop a comment or a like or even hit that subscribe button. Cheers. So once you've got your military started, you have to figure out what you want to arm and armor them with. We'll start the second half of the video off with a discussion of metal types and what they practically mean for you, before moving on to weapon types and what they'll do to your opponents. Moving from left to right, we have silver and other precious metals. These are the clear worst option. If you have literally nothing else, you could settle for this, but do keep in mind that it is the least effective metal. Copper. It's better than nothing, but it is still clearly worse than iron and bronze, which are roughly equivalent to one another. Bronze has slightly better slashing effectiveness, but both definitely pale in comparison to steel, which is by far the most effective metal to arm and armor your dwarves in. So why does metal type matter? Because higher quality metals are much more effective against lower quality metals. A copper spear will struggle to go through iron, bronze, and steel, whilst a steel spear can and will punch straight through copper. So, now that we know about inferior and superior quality metals, we need to discuss the different types of armor that you can equip your dwarves with, and the different types of weapons you can equip your dwarves with. All of these dwarves are armored in the same thing. A short sword, a breastplate, a steel helm, gauntlets, high boots, greaves, and a shield. But there are also available to dwarves mail shirts, mail leggings, and low boots. The main difference between mail and rigid armor is that blunt weapons are much more effective against mail, as it will deform. However, mail is much lighter than rigid armor. This means that, in general, a weaker dwarf, or one who is not very skilled in armor using, will still be able to move around at a respectable rate of speed. When discussing weapon types, we need to understand that there are 3 different types of damage a dwarf can deliver with their weapons: slashing, crushing, piercing. Your slashing weapons are short swords and battle axes. These weapons will cut off limbs, open large wounds, and potentially disembowel your enemies. They are most effective against either unarmored opponents or opponents wearing an inferior metal. Your crushing weapons are maces and warhammers. These weapons are adept at crushing bones and will still deal damage even if they strike armor, making them extremely effective against well-armored foes. They are slightly worse off against unarmored opponents, or against opponents who cannot feel pain. Your piercing weapons are spears and crossbows. These weapons deal smaller wounds, but those wounds punch deep into your opponents, potentially destroying organs such as the lungs, heart, and brain. They also will break bones if they punch into legs and arms. These weapons are almost always effective against all foes, but still benefit greatly from being made of a superior metal. Another thing to note here is that weapons and armor made by skilled smiths are far more effective. A masterwork piece of equipment is twice as effective as a standard cousin. The final thing to discuss is adamantine. This is by far the best metal to make your arms and armor out of. However, you shouldn't make any crushing weapons out of adamantine, as these weapons draw their damage from their mass, and adamantine weighs practically nothing. If you would like to learn more about the underpinning mechanics of the combat system, I highly advise heading over the Dwarf Fortress wiki, which will be linked in the description. It is an absolutely wonderful trove of knowledge put together by the brightest of dwarven minds, and is invaluably helpful. Now that you've figured out the arms and armor of your dwarves and the metals that they'll be made out of, you should probably start thinking about their schedule. Because it's one thing for them to train individually, as we can see Lickot here doing, but it is more effective if they train in a group. In order to set up a squad schedule, click on this checkbox here and click Schedule. Then you can choose whether you want them on off-duty, staggered training, constant training, or ready, or you can even make up your own one. Once again, please visit the wiki for more information. My advice to you is to click on staggered training, click View Monthly Schedule, go to No Orders, click Edit, and set this to Equip Always. This will make them wear their arms and armor at all times, meaning they will be ready for a fight at all times. So now that you know how to defend your fortress, you should learn how to attack somebody else's location. You do so by coming down to the bottom right and clicking Open the World screen. The hotkey is Shift Y. Then you may click any of these locations on the map that you can see, which will open this missions screen. Here you can select the different type of attack you would like to perform, and then by moving up to the top left here, you can click on this checkbox to select which squad or squads you would like to send on this raid. This will be performed automatically when you close out this menu. The dwarves will collect their equipment and trundle off the map to perform their raid. And with all that said and done, this is the end of the video. I hope it's been vaguely helpful to you. Let me know in the comments if it could be explained better, of course. And if you've made it this far, why don't you give me a follow on Bluesky or Twitch? Both of those will be linked in the description below, and regardless of whether you do or do not, I hope you have a great day, and I will catch you in the next one.